It is the day after E3, and if we were here for any other game, well, I wouldn't be here. But I'm here with Dustin Browder. We were looking at StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. How are we doing, sir? Did you go to E3?
I did not go to E3 this year. We were prepping for this show and doing a lot of work on the multiplayer for Heart of the Swarm and a lot of work on the campaign.
So, I didn't get to see the game at BlizzCon, but obviously I kept up with the coverage, and you guys rolled out your kind of roster of new units at that thing, and some of those guys are missing now. And others, like the Tempest, have kind of appeared to have changed roles. What's happened in those, 6, 8, 10 months ago? Like, what's happened in that period and what led to those decisions?
We've had a lot of play tests, obviously, internally, and we've had a lot of feedback from our fans, specifically based around the BlizzCon build. So some of the units that we really do like and think are kind of cool didn't make it, ultimately just sort of balance reasons and sort of metagame reasons. The Protoss Replicant, for example, was this really cool unit that could transform into any unit you could see. So you could make Protoss Siege Tanks or Protoss Ghosts. It sounds really cool. We never could find a right price for it to make it really work. It was always either too expensive or too cheap. It was either way too powerful, way too weak. There was no happy place for it to be. And it was actually causing other players not to build a bunch of units anymore. So it was actually destroying unit diversity, not helping with unit diversity, which is something we always want. We want a lot of different units in the game at all times. So it was actually costing us more than it was helping us at the end of the day. For things like the Tempest, we'd originally envisioned that unit as a unit that could be a very powerful area effect weapon from the skies for the Protoss. And then we were talking about it, and we gotten some feedback from BlizzCon, and we realized we've already got this weapon in the Phoenix. We had an upgrade to the Phoenix, give him a little bit more range. He could take care of all of our muta problems, and we wouldn't need this role anymore. And so we sort of repositioned him to be a very powerful Protoss artillery piece from the sky. So it gives a really good reason to build Stargate, a really good reason for the Protoss to go to the air.
Yeah, as a Protoss player, it seems like you've legitimized the Stargate as a tech path, like kind of exclusive to the robotics. Now that you've got like detection on the Oracle and stuff, but the Tempest that I just played with the range upgrade has a range that I would describe as obscene. Are you guys worried about? I mean, it's much longer than its vision. Yep. It seems like it's longer than a screen. Is that accurate?
It's a range 22 weapon. Yeah. So for point of comparison, for people who don't know, the range of a siege tank is only 13. So this makes it easily the longest range weapon in the game. So we're clearly pushing it. Yeah. Whether we can get away with this range or not is unknown at this point. I would say it's 50-50.
That was my question. If you think it's open to abuse.
We'll see. Right. We'll see what happens. We usually try to push new units to be as powerful as we dare to see what we can get out of them. It's very easy to make things tepid and safe. That's a very easy balanced decision to make, and we always tend to go towards that naturally. So we tend to try to push it as big as we can to start with, so that when we can see what the limits are, and then we can easily come back. This is a one number in the game. I can change it literally at my desk in 5 minutes, right? So the minute we believe that this is not going to work, we can cut it and keep cutting it until it makes something more reasonable.
The last BlizzCon, you guys were pursuing a philosophy of like yanking existing units out that weren't filling a valid role. It sounds like that you may have backpedaled on that stuff. Like, were there internal fights about that stuff? What led to that? And also, I mean, something like the carrier, like the carrier is sort of the perennial, like kind of useless unit, like you never see it, but then like every time a carrier pops up in a GSL final, does that like reset your clock, for like maybe we should actually keep this thing around? Like what's the thought process?
Well, so we obviously, you're totally correct. That was absolutely our approach, was to try to do a cut and remove strategy to try to keep the number of units in the game reasonable so that players could scout what the opposition was doing, and so we could remove a lot of the complexity from the game as we added more stuff. And so the more we talked about it, the more feedback we got, the more and more that philosophy became eroded. There was no point where we suddenly decided we were not going to do that. We just lost it one step at a time. Like, well, we don't want to cut that unit. That feels really good. You see it used in that GSL game or in that MLG game. That was amazing. Okay, we can't cut that one. And so we slowly wrote until we finally looked around one day and said, hey, we're not even really doing this anymore, right? We are just going to try to find ways to add and try to make it work. And we feel like we've got something that's really solid that can accomplish that goal. The carrier is the one last remaining unit that has not been brought over. The Tempest does step on him really badly. We still don't see a reason to build him at this point, but we're still discussing it. We're still talking about it. We know there's a big passionate group of people in the community who feel like it's too an essential, not something they're using a lot, but something that they feel like is core to what the race is, its personality, and to lose that feels too destructive. We feel like the Tempest fills that same big golden ship kind of vibe, but we're not really sure yet what's going to happen with the carrier at this point.
You've got stuff like the Warhound in there that's got this auto-cast missile ability on it that not only fires automatically, but targets specific units automatically. Are you guys concerned about over-automating some of that stuff that's going to kind of pull the rug out from under the kind of requirement for micro at the pro levels, or I mean, is that more of a concession for low level players? What's that about?
That was definitely a concern before Wings of Liberty came out. We had a lot of feedback from our fans that we're moving too much of the skill in the game, even allowing you to select more than 12 units at once. You remember back to original Brood War, you can only select 12 units at a time, and the idea you could select as many things as you want was going to destroy too much of the skill. That hasn't proven to be true. These players are unbelievably skilled, and they have done amazing things with the game despite that change. So I don't really worry about that too much. But we always keep an eye on it, like you're saying, which is a very valid sort of concern. For us, that was, for the Terrans specifically, they have a lot to do already. They have, between their stim, between their siege tank deploys, between maybe the occasional EMP, they've got plenty going on. We felt like adding more clickies to the Terrans was really just mean at that point. We were just being obnoxious. And so we felt like by giving this the targeting of mech only, it would really make the unit a lot more useful to a lot more players.
Based on the build that you've got on the floor right now, what is your biggest current concern? Because like you say, nothing that's in there is final. It's all subject to change. What's the biggest fear you have at the moment?
So the biggest fear I have right now is the Widowmine. A unit is very powerful, very strong, and it's not going to be easy to find the right numbers on him at the end of the day, because he does trade his life for enemies. So there's a cost there that's got to be just right, and you've got to balance him against different units, and it's a wide number of races you got to deal with. So he's going to be one of the most challenging to deal with. The Tempest is one that looks the scariest, but that's one number. I can change that easily, right? But if the Widowmine can't find a sweet spot, he won't make the final cut. So that's why I'm most nervous for him.
Right. This thing is at least a few months off, so we've still got some time with the live game.
Yep.
But it's been pretty quiet on the balance change front with that thing. Are you guys still keeping a close eye on that stuff as you do this thing? And is the feeling, since we haven't seen a lot of changes lately, is the feeling that it's kind of reached equilibrium, or is it more that you're just kind of holding back since this is kind of...
We're definitely keeping an eye on Wings of Liberty. We'll keep an eye on Wings of Liberty for a long time yet to come. We love Wings of Liberty, and we love what it's built and all of this stuff that's come out of it. So we're definitely keeping an eye on it. We feel like the game is in a pretty good place right now, but we're obviously, as the metagame changes, the rules change. And so, and the players are, believe it or not, still discovering lots of things about this game that, nobody would have thought. We're 2 years in at this point, and we're still finding out strategies, the units that have not changed in years are suddenly becoming unbalanced, right? So that's just a natural part of these really amazing players really beating away at the game. So we're feeling pretty good today, but that could change tomorrow. Right. And so then suddenly we would be there, saying, okay, we got to do a patch, we got to try to do something for this. But right now we're feeling it's in pretty solid space. We'll sort of see what happens going forward. The numbers I saw this morning, we check them every morning to see sort of what the win-loss is by race, by region, by ladder position, whether you're a diamond player or a bronze player, grandmaster. It was very solid, within 1% in every region in the world, every league, every division, except for North America for Protoss versus Zerg. Zerg have an advantage right now in Protoss versus Zerg, but only North America. But that's not unusual, right? They'll have a couple little burps like that, and we'll see what happens. But we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens going forward.
Do you consider, those win rates, are those kind of the last word on the balance to you, or do the minutia factor in? If you drill down and you see some imbalances lower level, is that still kind of distress you?
It's just a tool. It's an early edge indicator of something being seriously wrong. Once we see something go wrong there, we can drill in elsewhere. But we get feedback from the community. We still play the game quite a bit of ourselves. We have people around the organization that play and tell us what their experience was on a weekly basis or even a daily basis in some cases. So we have a lot of ways to get input. The win-loss numbers at the end of the day are just one vector that we can use to really, it's empirical. I know if those numbers are bad, we're definitely in trouble. Right. If they're good, it doesn't mean we're necessarily safe. Right. It just means that that's an indicator we might not be that off. We also use things like tournament rankings. We look at and we watch as many of the tournaments as we possibly can to see what's going on in there. And of course, that's very difficult to know because it's only a couple of guys. If one guy's a little under the weather, it might affect his ability to win. But you can watch the game and go, I don't think there was a way out of that. Yeah. I think he was the better player and he lost. And that's something we try to do all the time. So we're constantly watching. Right. David Kim's job at this point is pretty much watching that all the time, and he does it ceaselessly. Yeah. Never mind all the guys on the team that help us out with it.
You mentioned that there is still interesting stuff going on in the pro scene. Like the last thing I saw was that MVP Squirtle game that went on for like 50 minutes a couple of finals ago, where it ended in. So did I actually hear them call it an Archon toilet? Is that the name of the maneuver?
You did.
And he pulled that off. That literally was the most exciting game or match that I've seen in this game to date. Yeah. Almost 2 years later. Like what's the most exciting thing that you're seeing right now? Who's your favorite player or a couple of favorites in terms of like play style and creativity?
I don't know. That's really tough. Like I don't get to see him as much anymore, but I used to enjoy watch the little one play back around beta and late beta because he was so creative with his builds and he had these wacky combinations. That just weird stuff too. Like you go into battle with like 2 Hellions, a Raven, a Banshee, 3 Marines, and a Marauder, and you're like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
And then, 30 seconds later, the enemy army be gone, and you're like, oh, if you're going to do that, I guess that would work, right?
What he's going to do with that is win.
Yeah, is win with these amazing micros. So it's really, really sick. I mean, I've been a big fan of Nest for quite some time. But I love all of these guys. I love Marine King's micro. His Marine micro is just absolutely sick. It's just glorious to watch. I love watching Huck. I mean, all these guys are just absolutely amazing, the stuff that they do. And so we love watching all these pros. And yeah, the Archon toilet, as you put it, was, with the Vortex, was absolutely wonderful to watch and just amazing games.
How do you feel about these Kespa players, the Broodwar guys coming over? I mean, they have, they've cut their teeth on a somewhat different game. There were definitely different kind of mechanics going on there. Do you think they're going to easily integrate into the new game, or you think it's going to be like, they've got really good execution because of the higher APM requirements and stuff, but they're not as integrated into the metagame? Like, how do you think that's going to go?
There's really no way for me to know at this point. Like, I'm certainly very hopeful for them, right? But at the end of the day, it's like anything else on planet Earth. It's about practice, right? And if they've had the time to practice, they're going to do amazingly well. These guys have a lot of raw natural talent, and they put a lot of practice into what is a very similar game. So they should be able to transition, I think, very well. A lot of the pros that we have now that are very effective in StarCraft 2 were former Warcraft 3 or StarCraft Broodwar pros. So I expect they'll do just fine. There may be some bumps in the road early on. There may not. It depends how much time they've had with it, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. What kind of expectations should we have over the next few months? Like, you think there's a chance this year? Like, what's going on?
I think we got a very good chance for making this year, and we're very excited about the stuff we're doing in the campaign. We've managed to really, I think, execute on some of the things we promised on many years ago. When we first sort of sat down and said we're going to give you a campaign with different mechanics so you feel like you're the Zerg monsters, destroying the stars. We said that in front of a group of press people like yourself, and then I went back to my desk and I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if we're actually doing that, right? Yeah. So it was a good promise, and as a result, we've really sort of doubled down on making that happen. So I'm feeling very confident in the mechanics. All the missions are done. Everything is more than roughed out. We're doing final polish and tuning. We're doing a lot of difficulty adjustment for the different difficulty levels in the game. So the campaign is going very well. I'm very happy with where the story ended up. It's looking really, really good at this point.
So you'd say multiplayer is probably the biggest hurdle yet to surmount?
Honestly, at this point, the biggest hurdles that's for us are balance, tuning, and just finishing it off, right? Yeah. Just getting all the things wrapped up. There's a ton of debug. There's a ton of polish. There's a ton of art still to go in some places across the game. Particularly the UI in between games is a bunch more work that we were talking about earlier with a bunch of features we still want to execute on. So there's a bunch of stuff to still happen, but we're looking really good on the campaign. I think we're looking really good on the multiplayer. Obviously, we'll learn more here today, but I think we're headed to a very good place with the game.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go enjoy MLG, and I'm going to go collapse in a corner somewhere. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Here we are with an unexpected second interview. I've got game designer David Kim, who is very well known to the hardcore StarCraft 2 community. How are you doing, sir, going into MLG here?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm really glad to see that we have a build prepared so that our fans can actually check out the build today. And we're really looking forward to the feedback that people will provide us after this event.
What do you like that's in there right now? Like, what are your favorite units? What do you think are like the units and abilities that are adding the most interesting and dynamic new stuff to the metagame and to the matches that you're seeing?
On the Protoss side, I really like the Tempest. I like how siege range units in the past, they're only like 9 to 13 range, but the Tempest actually has a crazy 22 range. Yeah. So granted that the DPS of the unit is not very good for cost naturally because the attack radius is so long. But I just really like picking off stuff from a distance, and obviously if it's overpowered, then we're going to have to tone it down a little bit. But just the fact that we're pushing it like that, I think is really cool. On the Zerg side, I really like the Viper, because pulling key units like Colossi, it just looks so cool, right? Like, in the past, if the Colossus are in the back, I can't really do anything about that until I get through his whole army, and then I can maybe go for the Colossus if he hasn't backed up already. But now I can just pull those guys to the front of my stack, kill them first, and then engage. So that's really cool. On the Terran, I guess the Battle Hellion excites me the most, not because it's just this cool, amazing thing, but because one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now is in the late game, Protoss versus Terran. Terran doesn't have a solid counter to mass charge zealots, and the fact that the Battle Hellion is getting added to counter that, I think it's really cool.
The health goes up when it transforms, right? Is it essentially just kind of acting as a meat shield that's sort of blocking for your kind of bio ball there?
So it's acting as a meat shield, as well as the splash type is a cone splash type instead of the line damage. So it's actually really good against zealots or zerglings. Any unit that surrounds units pretty well, it's strong against those types of units.
Dustin said something pretty funny in the presentation, that the speed upgrade for the Hydra, which sounds like the least significant thing in this entire expansion, is actually having the most profound effect on the matches you're seeing. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Kind of give us an example of how that's changing Zerg play?
Yeah, I think that combined with Vipers is actually making some a really powerful unit combination, right? The reason is because, say you're going up against Terran army. He has a bunch of siege tanks set up. I can actually use this movement speed of Hydralisks to move into position quickly, pull the right siege tanks, kill them fast, and then move to a different location before the enemy can react. So I don't think it's just the Hydralisk alone that's doing that, but with combination of Hydralisk and Vipers. And you can actually see this in one of the battle reports that we're showing at this event.
Okay.
So if you see that, I think that's going to give a really clear picture of some of the stuff that you can do with Hydra speed upgrade.
I'm not going to lie, I'm stealing this question from the group Q&A earlier, but speaking of the Viper, is there any concern with you guys that there's a little bit of redundancy between that and the Infestor? I mean, that's two casters for the Zerg that have somewhat similar objectives.
We feel that Abduct doesn't overlap too much with Mind Control, which is not used too often right now, but we do feel like Fungal Growth and Blinding Cloud overlap a little bit because they're actually used against the same type of stuff, right? But so we discussed a lot about it, and we're still talking about if we need a different spell or if we can keep that. But for now, we are enjoying the combination of those two units because once you put down Blinding Cloud on a group of Marines, that's kind of powerful, but he can just back out from that, right? Whereas if you fungal those units, he can still fight your army. So what we're seeing in internal games is if you combo Fungal Growth with Blinding Cloud, that's actually pretty strong, and you don't really need any other units other than, say, like Zerglings to counter a huge pack of Marine Marauders, which is something that we don't see in Wings of Liberty, which we think is going to be pretty strong in Heart of the Swarm, so we're kind of experimenting still. But yeah, there are some similarities, especially with those two spells.
Well, what is the most exciting stuff you're seeing going on with the live game right now in terms of creative strategies, sort of pushing the metagame forward? I'm just curious, who your favorite players are and what you like that you're seeing.
I guess what's kind of cool that we're seeing right now, which is also a little bit scary, is we're seeing with a recent patch that's just released with the Queen range buff, we're seeing a lot of Zerg players doing really well. We have seen this sort of thing in the past. For example, when we buffed Fungal Growth, we are seeing a huge spike in Zerg wins for the next, say, like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it toned down a little bit. So we're kind of hoping that this situation is similar to that kind of situation, but at the same time, it is kind of cool seeing new strats involving a lot of queens being utilized. And as far as my favorite players go, I just like everyone that really plays diverse.
Yeah.
I guess on the Terran side, one of my favorite players is MMA. I'm kind of disappointed. Not disappointed. Sorry. I'm kind of bummed that he's not performing as well as he used to these days, but I really have strong confidence that he can pick it back up and he can be at the very top again soon. And other on the Zerg side, obviously, there's Stefano, the best foreigner in the scene right now. That I think is pretty amazing, especially considering he's not practicing with Korean players. And on the Protoss side, I really like Squirtle and Parting. I really think those two play kind of different compared to other Protosses out there, and maybe they help each other, I don't know, because they're on the same teams, but either way, I just like how they play, and I like how strong their late game is, especially. It's really fun to watch. Is
there anything with the live game that you feel is lacking right now in terms of obviously, stuff like carriers rarely get used in pro games. Are there any holes in the metagame where you feel like people could be doing more with what's already there, or do you feel like the play is pretty diverse and robust right now?
Well, I'm obviously not as good as the pro players, so I can't say with certainty, but one of the things we're talking about internally is now that queens are used so often, now that creep tumors are being placed down so much, we're kind of hoping maybe what if rather than using 10 scans throughout the whole game, which costs a lot actually, right? That's a lot of Marines that you're missing out on. Rather than doing that, what if pro players start using Ravens? And this kind of build, we're seeing a little bit in Korea too. We're seeing initial Banshee Raven build orders to take out the creep tumors, but we're not seeing it as much as we'd like. We're kind of hoping to see new strats like that, right? Maybe not specifically that, but just the units that you mentioned that are underutilized. We're hoping they could be viable even without changes, and if that can't happen, then obviously we can step in and make a patch or deal with those issues in Heart of the Swarm as well.
Yeah. BlizzCon last fall you guys were pursuing a philosophy of yanking out old units that were being underused and stuff, and you guys have pulled back from that, and it sounds like nothing's going to get cut as it stands right now. But it sounds like there may have been some infighting that went on with those decisions. Which side of that debate did you fall on? Did you feel like you should just start cutting stuff, or would you rather keep everything in there as it is and just try to fix it and make it work like it should?
Everyone goes back and forth all the time on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm for cutting, sometimes I'm not. So it's kind of hard to say like I stand on one side of it. But right now, as is, the only unit that's cut is the carrier. And we're feeling that for that unit, the Tempest kind of fills that similar role, but better because of such a crazy range. So we're really looking forward to the feedback that we get at this event to really make sure that fans are okay with it. And I think part of the process is we can't just cut whatever we want just because it's not good for the game design, because there are players that are attached to those units, right? So I think a good balance is needed there. So for the carrier that's cut, we are definitely willing to reconsider if the fans feel strongly about it. On the flip side, though, having too many units on a race makes it kind of complex for an average player to learn that race, right? So hopefully the best answer would be to determine what's really okay to cut, what's really not, and really get the correct answer, I guess, in terms of cutting units.
As a Protoss player, what's something I should look out for? I mean, obviously I know what the new units do and everything, but like are there any kind of non-obvious builds or strategies that I should go try out real quick?
I guess my favorite thing about the Protoss right now is the Oracle into mobility. That actually doesn't kill anything, but it actually does some serious damage.
Yeah.
That's actually shown in the battle report too, if you get a chance to check it out. So I guess just constantly using Entomb as much as possible on every single base that your opponent has, I think that's just a really fun new way to play.
I thought it was like single cast, single node kind of blockade, but it's like an AoE that pretty much like negates the entire mineral line for a while. Like that almost seems like obscenely good. Like is that a concern?
One of the concerns for this ability is because it's not attacking anything, you don't get an alert when the minerals get blocked. That is actually, I mean, it's kind of hardcore, but it's actually one of the biggest strengths of it, right? So we're thinking of ways to actually address that, but yeah, hopefully it'll turn out okay for the beginning of the beta. If not, we can fix it during the beta.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to stop soaking up all your time, but I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.